Welcome to the 15th Ward North neighborhood in Syracuse from University Hill. To the left, we're passing the Theory Student Apartment building as we walk north along South Crouse Avenue. Currently, we approach East Fayette Street, traversing upgraded streetscape designs with new materials, widened sidewalks, and plenty of trees planted in swales. The two buildings ahead frame a new pedestrian alley, Market Alley. This alley, in turn, frames a tower in the distance that's designed as an anchor to Market Square and as a new part of the new community center for the neighborhood. Market Square exists on the former site of the Kennedy Square housing development. The irregular curvature and angles of the buildings, their profiles, and their details, as well as other variety-inducing factors, creates interest as the pedestrian moves through the space. This picturesque movement in and around the irregular urban fabric reveals and conceals new aspects of the city through parallax. On the left, we pass a small public square within Market Alley, and a statue of the logo of the city of Syracuse. To the left of both is the new neighborhood grocery market building, intended to give everyone in this area access to fresh groceries by foot or bicycle. Up ahead, the paving pattern changes to a unique localized condition around this column with a stepped base, which is an activation point for social interaction within this part of Market Square. As we face the rest of Market Square ahead, we see a fountain surrounded by seating. And to the right, we see the main part of the community center building of this neighborhood. This new building contains meeting spaces, a health clinic, childcare, continuing education, and a branch library. Ahead is another part of the community center building. This contains visual and performing arts centers, as well as the outdoor stage that can host concerts, and a tower that acts as a visual anchor to Market Square, seen and viewed with parallax differently from many different angles and as a part of many varying picturesque urban compositions. As we continue forward past the crowd that faces the band on the stage and the market building to the left, we head towards Irving Avenue. In this portion, it is curved and widened to act as an entrance and exit to I-690 in the state's community grid design, now that I-81 would no longer connect to I-690. The curved and irregular profiles, shapes, and details of the buildings and streets here creates variety to keep the pedestrian intrigued as they move around spaces where new things that they have not yet seen are constantly revealed through parallax to keep them moving through that space with interest. On the left, we pass the westernmost seating area of Market Square. Up ahead, we see a series of bollards which mark the beginning of Washington Street, where we will be walking along for most of the remainder of this tour. To the right here, we pass the extant Peace Housing building, which has a slight setback. As we walk along the south side of Washington Street, here to the right, we see a parallel parking lane, which contains various parklet insertions. These parklets are small activations of public space with things like bench swings, movable and fixed restaurant seating, and lounge areas. These parklets are crucially important to maintaining a lively streetscape. Up ahead, we encounter Ormond Avenue, which we will pass as we continue to walk west over an extension of the sidewalk here into the parallel parking lane. This decreases the amount of street width that the pedestrian must cross. Here, we see another way to activate the public space, with a conversation occurring on a row house stoop. We continue past that conversation, west on Washington Street. As we're talking about diversity of activating public space, one of the most important things to consider in designing a vibrant city is to create a wide variety of different mixed-use buildings of different styles, small street frontages, and varying designs. The purpose of this is to create an engaging pedestrian experience, but also an economic and residential diversity throughout the neighborhood, with a variety of ownership by different people. Small street frontages are especially important as fewer, larger block-sized buildings deaden the street, consolidate power, decrease diversity, and create a non-resilient urban monoculture. Up here on the left, we pass a small existing red brick office building. This is followed on the left by a linear public space on axis with the path underneath the Center of Excellence that leads towards the back of the former AME Zion Church, converted to a new neighborhood school. Right here, we're facing towards the Center of Excellence owned by Syracuse University. As we pass that building, and the new Almond Park in front of it, we face towards a series of arches and towers at the corners of buildings that signify the entrance and exit of the east side and downtown, which is delineated also by the Almond Street corridor, designed as the state's community grid replacement of the I-81 viaduct. Here, we cross a bike lane that was designed as part of the Almond Street corridor. As we continue west on Washington Street, this remains as one of the more typical tree-lined streets of this project, which also acts as the main corridor of this neighborhood. We see a variety of different types of narrow, varied storefronts, potentially housing diverse businesses with diverse peoples living and working above, with diverse, small local ownership made possible by the fine-grained character of this urbanism. This is a very important alternative to large, block-wide buildings that we see in certain development patterns, including in Syracuse, which concentrate power and starve neighborhoods of necessary residential and commercial diversity. Up here on the left, we pass a building that has a corner tower where South McBride Street meets Washington Street. Corner towers like this can act as local landmarks and placemaking monuments that give identity and imageability to the neighborhood. Throughout the 15th Ward North, existing buildings have been kept, such as these two buildings to the right, which are separated by a new gate that helps to close off the center of the block, making it more secure. The idea of keeping these existing buildings, such as these two, the red roof building on the left, and the red brick building up on the right, is to respect what currently exists in the neighborhood while adding value to what is already there, with a contextually respectful style and urban attitude. The neighborhood design doesn't start from scratch, but rather deals with current realities of the 15th Ward North. As we approach South Townsend Street up ahead, we see several existing buildings, such as the small tan building on the right corner. Off in the distance to the left, we see a tan brick tower, which is at the back of the Verizon building on Firefighters Park. Just here to the right, this cinder block building is the Jazz Central building, which currently exists in this neighborhood. On the left, we're also passing the extant Lewis and Tanner Paints. As we veer off to the right, we enter a newly designed pedestrian space, which is the Canal Walk, and leads to the new Canal District designed by the State Department of Transportation as part of the community grid, replacement for I-81. A variety of different types of spaces and profiles in this Canal Walk create a diversity of uses and visual experiences as one walks and spends time in and through this space. This rich variety keeps the pedestrian interested and engaged as new elements of the space and buildings are continually revealed through parallax as they continue walking through their environment. This Canal Walk is designed to speak to the heritage and the past of this city as a city of canals, industry, and salt. At this point, as we've gotten through most of the Canal Walk, we cross over Water Street facing towards the north, where we see the Canal District in the distance on the left as well as downtown, and directly in front of us we see Erie Boulevard with the I-690 viaduct in the distance. This is where the major sequence through the 15th Ward North ends. We now continue along the next sequence of this video, walking north on Irving Avenue from the corner of East Genesee Street. On the left are several existing buildings, such as the Irving and Syracuse Market. On the right, we have the Theory Student Apartment Building. As we cross Wellington Place, on the left, several row houses coexist with the slightly setback existing First Fruit Ministries building. Up ahead on the right is the pre-existing, newly renovated, and added to Uncommon Apartments building, historically known as the Sylvester. On the left, we see one row house with a round corner which mediates the stoop setback. We now approach a more mixed-use area beyond the row houses. On the left, the blue glass building is the extant Upstate Biotech Accelerator building owned by Upstate Medical. Here we cross Irving Avenue and then East Fayette Street to the northeast, then walking north along the west side of the new grocery market building towards Market Square. And throughout this procession, the profile of trees, vehicles in the parallel parking lane, and various buildings, as well as the low profile of Market Square, conceal and reveal aspects of the urban space ahead of us, including Market Square Tower. These profiles work to achieve this effect of parallax in cooperation with irregular curved streets, such as this one, which is an extension of Irving Avenue into what is currently the parking lot of Upstate Medical's Upstate Biotech Accelerator, and this wide street is included in the state's community grid design leading up to the entrance and exit that are newly created for I-690, now that it will no longer connect to I-81. To a smaller scale than of the urbanism at large, parallax is at work here as the columns of the market's loggia conceal and reveal the market and its activity behind, as the pedestrian perceives the columns as moving faster than what is behind them. As we move past the market building, Market Square is slowly revealed. Here we are at the corner of Washington Street, which is pedestrian at this spot, and Irving Avenue. We veer east towards the new community center building. We walk around the Market Square column, first facing southeast down Market Alley towards East Fayette Street and South Crouse Avenue. We turn to face eastward, where an iconic turret guides us through a narrow pedestrian alley, which is bordered by civic and economic realm buildings, which create a picturesque framed view of this tower. As we continue forward down this alley, the irregular corners and shapes of this space in which we walk reveal new elements of the next space in our sequence through parallax. The purpose of this corner tower guiding us through the alley was to bring our attention to this second alley, Ormond Spencer Alley, another pedestrian alley that has been created in this neighborhood, designed to lead us to the currently existing Ormond Spencer Park, to end the park's current state of underutilization. As we pass South Crouse Avenue between Washington and Water Street, we continue forward, with our focus pointed towards the park ahead. As most of the public spaces designed by this project have been quite hardscaped, Ormond Spencer Park acts as a green oasis in Syracuse's urban core, with sports facilities, lawns, trees, and play spaces that this neighborhood can also take advantage of to be a more complete and livable community. Towards the end of this street, the buildings slowly taper down to meet a scale more appropriate to the adjacent neighborhood. And as we near the end of this alley, the vista of the park expands to become our entire view. We now enter the final sequence of this video. On the left, we pass Fayette Place and the Crown Plaza Garage, both extant, and on the right, we pass the renovated AME Zion Church at 711 East Fayette Street, which has been extended to become a neighborhood school, with this brick structure on the other side of a newly created cloister containing a playground. This complex is designed and named in honor of Reverend Jermaine Logan, who operated this church as an important part of the Underground Railroad. On the left, we pass a pre-existing warehouse currently in the neighborhood. As we pass the first half of the cloister and its playground, we see on the right an existing red brick office building and a small public space in front of it. This path sequence has been on axis, with the path leading under Syracuse University's Center of Excellence up ahead. As we cross East Washington Street, just east of Almond Street, facing northwest, we now walk through the newly designed Almond Park with a lawn, plantings, and a fountain-focused hardscaped area. In the far right, we see a red brick pre-existing U-Haul building, an original Erie Canal warehouse. As we wrap up this final sequence, walking beneath the Center of Excellence, we now see the vibrant, diverse, and walkable future that awaits Syracuse's 15th Ward North community.